So I've shared some version of this type of video on my channel for the last few years, but normally I combine drugstore and high-end products all in one video, and I've never done a strictly drugstore or affordable version. So that's what I have for you in today's video, my absolute top favorite drugstore products of all time, the top 3 in every category, because it is kind of hard to narrow down to one. If I have an absolute distinct favorite, I'll share that with you in today's video as well. But if you've seen a lot of my videos, a lot of these recommendations might be slightly repetitive. You definitely heard me talk about them on my channel, but I thought it would be good to have all of them in one place. That way, if you're ever looking for a recommendation or you're looking to try a new product in a certain category, you can always come back to this video because these truly are tried and true favorites. There are a couple of slightly newer launches in today's video, not many, but if they are, it's because they're that good. They impressed me enough to already climb to the top of that category. So we'll go through everything in today's video. I will apply as many products as possible. I'll also put chapters in the description box in case you want to jump ahead, and I'll make sure to list and link everything in the description box as well. So let's start with complexion, and I will kick it off with primer. I'll go in the order that I would normally apply my makeup. So my #1 favorite primer of all time is this one from Milani. It is the Conceal and Perfect Blur Out Smoothing Primer. This really is the perfect all-in-one primer. It does smooth the skin so well. If you have really large pores or you have just an uneven skin texture, whether that's due to scarring or breakouts or whatever the case may be, this product makes your skin look and feel incredibly smooth and blurred. It is a very moisturizing product. It has a nice refreshing feel, but I find that it also mattifies my skin really well. So makeup just wears extremely well on top of this product. It's not sticky or tacky like a lot of long wearing primers can be these days. So that actually is a really nice feature because sometimes with smoothing or blurring primers, they leave your skin feeling kind of slippery. So makeup doesn't wear as long as it might on top of a sticky or tacky base. When I prep my skin with this product, my makeup not only looks flawless initially, but it looks great throughout the day. So I highly recommend this product if you are in need of something that really does smooth and blur. This primer really does live up to all of its claims. It is such a gorgeous formula. It's a little bit more expensive compared to other drugstore primers I've tried and the other ones I'm going to share in this category, but I do think it's worth that extra price because it does feel very luxurious and it really does everything it claims to do, and it does improve the look and feel of my foundation no matter which foundation I'm wearing on top. The other 2 primers are from e.l.f. I've talked about these for years and years, but they still remain my top favorites. The Power Grip Primer is the best option if you want a good sticky primer. At this point, every brand has done a sticky, tacky base, and I feel like I've tried them all, or at least most of them, and this one is my favorite. It is probably one of the thickest, stickiest bases out there, but it locks your makeup into place extremely well. I can use this in the middle of the summer on a 15-hour makeup day, and my makeup looks amazing by the end of the day. There might be some wear, but it's going to last a lot longer than if I use any other primer. That being said, I can also use this in the winter time because it is incredibly hydrating. My skin looks so glowy, so dewy when I use this product, but you can always go in and set your makeup with powder and it will erase that glow, but you still get the longevity. So such a great option as long as you're looking for a thick, hydrating, sticky base. My other favorite from e.l.f. is the Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. This is the exact opposite of the Power Grip. So if you want something smoothing and mattifying, something very thin that actually sinks into the skin, this one is great. Again, it does a great job of blurring and smoothing out the skin, just like the Milani primer, but this one dries down to a true soft matte finish. There's almost a little bit of a powdery feel. So if you have very oily skin, I think this is going to be more ideal for you than the Milani primer. They both give your skin that smooth, blurred finish, but this one feels a little bit more moisturizing on the skin, whereas this one definitely leaves my skin more matte throughout the day. So this for me is more ideal during the summertime when my skin is extra oily, and I like this one during the spring and the fall and the winter when my skin could use a little extra hydration. Okay, let's talk foundation. e.l.f. actually makes one of my favorite foundations as well. I'm such a fan of the Soft Glam Satin Foundation. I don't think I expected to like this as much as I do. I mean, I hoped I would like it because I do like the Flawless Finish foundation, and I think that's still available. Originally, I thought they were launching this to replace that one, but I'm pretty sure you can still get it. The ingredients are somewhat similar, and a lot of people say the formulas are very similar, but I actually like this one a little bit better. This is a true medium coverage foundation. It has a gorgeous satin finish, and I love a satin finish foundation these days because you can typically manipulate it. If you go in with a matte base, you get more of a fully matte look when you pair it with this product, and if you go in with a super hydrating or glowy base like this product, this will end up looking more glowy. So it's kind of nice because you can really wear it both ways. I love that it's not a super intense full coverage foundation because it looks like skin. And for a medium coverage foundation, it wears super well on my skin. In the past, when I've tried a lot of lighter or medium coverage foundations, they just haven't lasted that well on me. But the fact that this is like a true satin foundation, I think means that it does pair well with a lot of different skin types. And I find that it wears really well throughout the day. So I absolutely love this. One of the most affordable foundations out there. I can't really imagine there are too many foundations that are quite a bit less expensive than this because drugstore pricing is getting more and more expensive these days. So highly recommend trying this if you're looking for like a good everyday option. If you're looking for something lighter than the e.l.f. Soft Glam, I highly recommend the Milani Conceal and Perfect Blur Out Skin Tint Stick. This came out, I think, at the very end of 2024 or the beginning of 2025, and I have been using it nonstop ever since it launched. I really didn't expect to like this one as much as I do. I think I just said that about e.l.f., but this one even more so because typically I'm not a big skin tint fan, but this just applies so beautifully. It's incredibly creamy, so smooth, so you swipe it on the skin and you can blend it out without really any effort. I usually take a brush and really buff it into my skin, but you can also use your fingers to just kind of press the product in. It's not an extremely buildable foundation. I find that it really does look like a light coverage foundation. You can maybe get like a low medium coverage if you go in and layer it up, but it's so easy to layer. It doesn't look cakey. It doesn't look heavy. This doesn't last on my skin quite as well as the e.l.f. Soft Glam or the next one I'll talk about. So I'm not exactly sure if this is going to be like a go-to daily staple for me during the summertime once my skin's a little bit more oily. But right now, and I mean, ever since I tried it months ago, I have been using it all the time and it really looks so gorgeous. Such a good everyday option. Again, very moisturizing. It has like a nice satin finish. It does dry down. It looks great on the skin. Okay, the last foundation that I'm going to share with you is like my longest. It's been my favorite the longest. It's the Catrice True Skin Hydrating Foundation. I have heard from some of you who live in Europe that they have discontinued this product, and they haven't discontinued it in the US yet, but I feel like it's probably coming because we're always a little bit behind in terms of Catrice. So like if they launch something in Europe, we get it later on. If they discontinue something, usually our product gets discontinued too. And I'm just like waiting for that to happen because I love this so much. At this point, I do have other foundations I really do like, but I still enjoy this on days where I want more of a full coverage look. I'm wearing it today. I feel like it just evens out my skin tone so well. It's extremely long wearing. Again, it's not super matte, but it's also not incredibly hydrating, which might be a con for you because they do call it like a hydrating foundation. But it just goes on easily. It builds really well. It pairs so nicely with whatever primer I'm wearing underneath and whatever powder I put on top. And I love it so much. I have gone through countless bottles of this product. I think the finish is great. Again, I think what I really love about it most is that it is so long wearing. So you can put this on in the morning and you really don't have to worry about it coming off unevenly throughout the day. So if you have any other good long wearing drugstore foundations, please let me know in the comments because I am kind of actively looking for a replacement just in case it gets discontinued here in the US too. Continuing on with concealer, it's kind of the same case with the Catrice True Skin Concealer. It hasn't been discontinued yet, so it's maybe only a matter of if or when, I'm not sure, but this is my absolute favorite drugstore concealer. Again, I have gone through countless bottles of this product. It's such a perfect formula. It really is. And I think, between the two, this one is probably going to be a little bit more appealing to more people. The foundation, while it claims to be very hydrating, isn't the most hydrating foundation, but the concealer absolutely has more of a hydrating feel to it. It's so smoothing. It blends out in 2 seconds. I almost think if they made the foundation more similar to this, a lot more people would probably enjoy it, but this wears extremely well for being a very hydrating concealer. The coverage is great. It really is like an all-around perfect formula to me. So I hope they don't end up discontinuing it. It's also very, very affordable. I'm pretty sure it is $8. So again, a great price because in my mind, this feels and performs like a luxury formula. It's absolutely gorgeous. Another one of my tried and true favorites that I've really enjoyed for a long time is the NYX Bear With Me. This is somewhat similar in that it has a very smooth feel to it. It definitely feels hydrating on the skin. It has probably a little bit more coverage than Catrice, and it's not quite as thin, but it's still very creamy, very blendable. This looks really great on my skin, very smooth, very even. I think it's such a good option no matter what type of skin you have. If you have extremely oily skin, you might prefer something that dries down a little bit more matte, but I do have pretty oily skin, and in the summer, I can still reach for this one. I just have to make sure to set it really well, but it looks great and it feels very lightweight on the skin. This is a pretty new launch, but immediately after trying it, like the first time, I knew it was going to be such a staple for me, and I have used it nonstop since I tried it. I can't remember exactly when I tried it, since they launched it. It's from Revolution Beauty. It is their Skin Silk Under Eye Brightener and Concealer. I actually tried the foundation because a ton of you recommended it to me, and that is equally as beautiful. I don't love that one enough to include it in this video, and I haven't used it enough to decide like where it kind of falls in terms of my ranking within my foundation collection, but it is a great option. I'll share more about that in an upcoming review video. But this is beautiful. I like this more than a typical under eye brightener because it has a little bit more coverage. I find it to be very, very similar to Rare Beauty's under eye brightener, but because this has slightly more coverage, you can use it as an actual concealer. And weirdly enough, you wouldn't think based on this texture that it would last really well on the skin, but it does. It is so thin, so lightweight. It blends out incredibly beautifully. Like it's a true serum-like texture, and it gives your skin like this gorgeous, subtle, luminous glow. Not like a glittery or shimmery glow, just like a beautiful, it just has this luminosity to it. You'll see when I swatch it. But like I was saying, it stays in place really well. I have to set mine with powder. I set all of my concealers with powder, but once I set it, it really doesn't crease throughout the day, which is amazing because it is so thin and so hydrating. You would just assume that it would crease instantly. And I've tried products that have similar textures and they just don't last on my under eyes. And this one really, really does. So if you want something lightweight, lighter coverage that feels incredibly hydrating, that blends out beautifully and adds like a touch of a brightening effect under the eyes, this is perfect. You can use it alone or as actual concealer, but I love it as an actual concealer on lighter makeup days. There are so many good drugstore powders. Honestly, I could probably do like an entire video on my favorites, and depending on what you're looking for, like pressed or loose, if you're looking for something that has a little bit of a glow or like a true matte powder, I mean, I have a lot of recommendations that I could share. So it was hard to narrow it down. I just kind of chose like 3 of my top most used powders. Again, I don't know if they're discontinuing this because there are quite a few shades out of stock on ColourPop's website, and that's been the case for a little while. It is still available, and I hope they're not discontinuing it because I love it, but they're kind of like slowly redoing the Pretty Fresh line, so I wouldn't be surprised if they redo the foundation, the concealer, and the powder at some point. But personally, I love the current Pretty Fresh powder formula. This is their pressed face powder. I have the shade Light 6. To me, this is perfect on days where I want a flawless look. Like if I want a little extra coverage, if I want my skin to look matte and smooth, and I want it to stay that day all day long, I'll reach for this. You can really pack it under the eyes with like a velour sponge, or you can use a fluffy brush to just set your face really well, and it makes your skin look just extra smooth, truly flawless. So I'm definitely a fan of this product. Something that's pretty similar that I feel like I could use in place of this if it does end up getting discontinued is the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop matte powder. Again, this is something that I have truly loved for years, and if you have oily skin or you just prefer a true matte finish and something that provides a little bit of extra coverage, this is great. They're very, very similar in my mind. I would say the NYX formula is slightly more mattifying, but other than that, I could probably use them, you know, somewhat interchangeably. It's just, you know how when you have products that are similar, but in your mind, they're slightly different, even if you can't fully articulate it? That's how I feel about these. Like, I know they're not that different, but in my mind, I'm like, they are. So I would say if I had to articulate it, NYX is slightly more mattifying and ColourPop is maybe a little bit more smoothing. But if you have one and not the other, I would say just stick with the one you have because they're pretty close. It was kind of hard to narrow down for today's video. There were a couple of other loose powders I wanted to mention, but when it came down to it, I really do think this is one of the best formulas I've seen in a really long time. It's from Essence. It's their Flawless Skin Trio Loose Setting Powder. This is a great product because it comes with 3 different color correcting powders. So you get a pink, a purple, and then a peach. They're pretty subtle, so you're not going to get intense color correcting results out of them. But I like that they're a little bit more subtle because a lot of color correcting powders can be so intense. So when you apply them to the skin, you end up with like super bright pink under eyes, or the peach is a little bit too peach. And this is a subtle way to provide a color correcting property. The actual formula is great. It is so silky, so lightweight. It just sits on the skin beautifully, and it's great under the eyes, but it's also great as a finishing powder or a setting powder. You can truly use this product in all three ways. The only thing that I don't love about this is that the packaging is a little messy. It's not the end of the world by any means. It does have this little plastic piece that you can pull out if you want to mix all of the colors together. I like to leave mine on there because the powder itself does come out pretty quickly, so it can get kind of messy. And then you can turn it and just dispense the particular shade you're wanting. But it's nice that you can use them alone or mix it together. Okay, moving on to cheeks. Let's start with bronzer. So for bronzer, I actually have a cream, a powder, and a liquid to talk about. So for cream, I have the Revolution Beauty Ultra Cream Bronzer. I have repurchased this so many times. I never make it through cream cheek products ever. I feel like I go through them so slowly until I tried this one, and I have just gone through it multiple times at this point. I just repurchased it the other day, so this is a brand new one I just used this morning, and it is the most gorgeous formula. I wish they would come out with the blushes in this formula as well, because I would use them so often. It really just melts into the skin and blends out so perfectly, but it's still very richly pigmented. So it's not like you have to layer this product up over and over. It's the perfect texture combined with the perfect amount of pigment, and it truly is a flawless, very effortless product to use. After all this time, my favorite powder bronzer from the drugstore is still the Flower Beauty Heatwave Luminous Bronzer. This feels like a luxury product to me. It kind of reminds me of Hourglass. I haven't tried a ton of Hourglass bronzers. In fact, the ones I've tried, I haven't actually liked as much as this one. I feel like the color is perfect because it is more of a rosy bronzer. And at this point, there are a couple of other options out there. NYX actually has a great line that has a couple of rosier options too, if that's what you're looking for. But this one has a slight glow to it. So many baked products are too glittery, too shimmery, but that's not the case with this one. It is glowy in the most beautiful, natural way. It's super lightweight, blends out effortlessly. It is just one of my all-time favorite makeup products, and every single time I use it, I love the way it looks on the skin. So I had to mention this one. The third product I mentioned is a liquid bronzer, and I didn't specifically choose like one powder, one cream, one liquid. And it kind of surprised me that I put this in my video because normally I don't like liquid bronzer, but I actually use this product a lot. And I do like it more now than I did when I initially tried it. In general, I'm not a big liquid bronzer fan, but the e.l.f. formula is definitely the best I've tried. They have bronzer shades and contour shades depending on the way that you like to do your makeup or your skin tone. So I have one that's a little bit cooler, one that's a little bit warmer. Usually I mix them together. This is the definition of effortless. It just applies so easily to the skin. It takes 2 seconds to blend out. And the big complaint that I hear about a lot of liquid cheek products, but specifically liquid bronzers, is that they dry too fast, or even liquid contours. And this one does not dry down so fast that you don't have time to work with it. In fact, I feel like you can work with it as long as you want, and then it will dry and set down, and it looks great on the skin. Super lightweight, very beautiful. So highly recommend this if you are looking for a liquid bronzer or a liquid contour. You don't have to spend a ton of money. This formula is just as good. In fact, I think it's better than the high-end alternatives I've tried. I also had to include the e.l.f. liquid blushes. They actually came out with these first, and honestly, I find this formula to be so similar to a lot of the high-end alternatives I've tried. You don't have to spend, $20, $30 on a liquid blush. I mean, you absolutely can if that's something you want to do. Nothing wrong with that. But these are, again, I believe $8, and in my opinion, they look just as great. They blend out as easily. They last as well on the skin, and e.l.f. has a ton of great colors. I think a few months ago, they ended up launching additional shades. So at this point, I feel like there really is something that works for everyone, whether you prefer something lighter and softer, you like a brighter color, a deeper berry. They have a ton of great options. They leave your skin with a little bit of a glow, but they're not like full-on dewy, glowy liquid blushes. They definitely dry down, stay in place extremely well. They're super lightweight, and I love them. I think they're a great option. collection. These are the Essence Pure Nude Baked Blushes. I've loved these for years and I still wear them all the time. They're just so gorgeous on the skin. A lot of high-end brands are doing powder blushes and a couple of them are doing baked blushes. And I feel like baked products are having a big moment right now. I just did a dupes video not too long ago talking about the Say Baked Blush. And I actually think the Essence blush is a better alternative. They're both talc-free. The ingredients actually line up fairly well. Essence has more shades to choose from. It's less expensive. It comes with more product. Like in every single category, the Essence blush is better. If you like the idea of a baked blush, I highly recommend trying this formula. It's very, very lightweight. So again, it doesn't feel or look heavy on the skin. It's not an overly pigmented formula. Some of the shades are a little deeper, some are a little bit lighter. You can absolutely build them up, but in the end, they look a little bit more subtle on the skin than something that has a lot more pigment like the next formula I'll talk about. Some of them are definitely more glittery than others, and that's the tough part because you can't always tell online, whereas in person, like this one looks significantly more glittery than this one. So I feel like it might be best to shop for these in person or just to check out like some true swatches online before buying, because if you don't like shimmery or glittery blushes, some of these might really not do it for you. Today I'm wearing the shade Pretty Peach, and I also like wearing these over liquid blush too because they give your skin a little bit of a glow. And sometimes, I don't know, I usually do like the finish of a liquid blush, but sometimes I feel like I want like a little something extra. So pairing these with liquid blush is actually perfect because they are so light. It doesn't feel like you're layering a ton of product on top. So I highly recommend these. I also wanted to mention the NYX Buttermelt blushes. If you want a pigmented rich blush, this is the formula to try. I don't get as much wear out of these as I do the Essence blushes because typically I don't like something too intense on the cheeks, but there is a time and a place for a very rich, very vibrant blush in my collection. And I know for a lot of people, I can't get this open. I know for a lot of people, that's like an everyday occurrence for them. So if that's you and you haven't tried this formula yet, I highly recommend checking it out. These are so fun, and I feel like the color selection just makes me happy. They don't have a lot of toned down, neutral, subtle shades. Most of them are pretty colorful, pretty bright and intense. So if that's what you normally go for, this line will absolutely appeal to you. The formula is gorgeous because it definitely has like a nice glowy finish to it. So it makes your skin look super pretty, very, very luminous. It's like a blush highlighter all in one. I didn't include the bronzers in today's video just because I feel like I like the other three formulas a little bit better, but I do think the bronzers are very pretty too. Some of them are kind of rosy, so you could probably get away with using them as like a neutral blush if that's what you would typically like. And I don't have the highlighters in today's video as well, even though I really like those. Those are super intense. If you want like a metallic, gorgeous, beaming highlight, I do recommend those, but I have a couple of other highlighter formulas to talk about. So for highlighter, I actually have two formulas that are a little bit newer. And again, most of these products are things that I've loved for years. But as I was looking through my entire highlighter collection, which really isn't very big these days, and I was like narrowing it down to my top three formulas, the newer formulas were still within the top three. So I'll get into the new ones in just a second. But a formula that I have loved for years is the Flower Beauty Spotlight Liquid Highlighter. So they do have liquid blushes and liquid contours. I don't like either formula as much as the liquid highlighter, but in my opinion, this formula is just as good and really just like an identical dupe to the Charlotte Tilbury liquid highlighter. It's very creamy, very easy to blend out. You can apply it however you prefer, with a brush, a sponge, your fingers, either any of those methods really works well with this product because it's very effortless to work with. It's not the thinnest formula I've ever tried, which sometimes I like that because there's like a creaminess to it that just applies beautifully. And it's not super sheer. It definitely has like a little bit of a base to it. It is something that you can mix in with a blush if you want to add an extra glow. It's something you can use on its own. It looks really well, It looks really good on the skin and wears really well throughout the day. So as far as a newer formula I love that is different than that, but it's still a liquid, the Profusion Radiant Glow Illuminating Liquid Highlighter formula is amazing. Now, this is much thinner than the Flower Beauty formula. It almost has a little bit of an oily texture. It reminds me somewhat of the Rare Beauty liquid highlighter formula, but I like this better. This does lean more in the sheer direction than Flower Beauty, so I feel like it adds a glow to your skin without looking like you have a stripe of highlighter on the skin. Again, something you can easily mix in if you have a blush that needs like an extra boost or a glow. This is a great product. I love applying this with a brush and kind of stippling it on, or if I want more of an intense look, I'll take my finger and just really tap it on like the high points of my cheeks. It does dry down. It looks great on the skin. It's very customizable, so you can go in with a little bit or you can really layer it up to get more of an intense metallic glow. But I highly recommend these. They're so stunning. They really do feel, again, like a luxury formula in my mind. The last one I want to mention, again, is something that I very recently tried out, but as soon as I tried it, it reminded me of one of my higher end favorites. It's the Versed High Points Illuminating Stick, and it is so similar to the Merit Highlighting Stick. That's one of my favorite high-end highlighters, and I haven't been able to find a good alternative to that from the drugstore or even from like another high-end brand until I tried this one. This one is very close, very creamy. It gives your skin like that balmy, dewy, glowy highlighted look. And if you don't like a liquid highlighter and you prefer a cream highlighter, this one's a great option. It applies great. I mean, you can use it and just swipe it on, or what I do is I usually either take a brush or my finger and then just tap it on that way. So it's not too intense, but it layers really great on top of powders, on top of liquids, and it looks nice. It definitely has like a sheer finish to it. So you don't get like a lot of pigment, a lot of color. You just get like that dewy, glowy, highlighted effect. I honestly think the lip balm market is about to explode. Not that there haven't been so many lip balm launches already, but I think lip balms are like the next lip oil. You know how every time you turned around, there was a new lip oil launch last year and the year before? I think that's what we're going to start seeing with lip balms, and we're already seeing it. Like there have been a lot of lip balm launches over the last year or two, and there are some really great affordable options. My absolute favorite lip balm at the drugstore, no question, is the ColourPop Fresh Kiss Glossy Lip Balm. These are an identical dupe for the Summer Fridays lip balms, in my opinion. In fact, I really don't even wear my Summer Fridays lip balms like a fraction of the amount I used to, because I like the ColourPop ones a little bit better. I think ColourPop has better colors, better scents, and they really do feel identical on the lips, except I think these are a little bit longer lasting. They even have the exact same applicator. And the next one that I want to mention is pretty close, but not as close as this one. So it truly just hugs your lips in the most perfect way. These are very moisturizing, very comfortable. They smell amazing. They look great on the lips. They're super shiny, really glossy, and they don't last extremely long because they are just a true lip balm. So they're thin and they're glossy, but they definitely last longer than other lip balms I've tried. And that's interesting to me because, you know, when you think of a lip balm, you think of just a regular lip balm. But now that brands are launching them like left and right, I really do see subtle differences within each formula that makes some of them stand out a little bit more to me. And I find that these are, you know, truly moisturizing and comfortable and fun, and they smell great, but they don't, you know, dry my lips out. They don't wear off in 2 seconds. So I do think out of all of the ones I've tried, these are the best in my opinion. e.l.f. recently came out with their own dupe for the Summer Fridays lip balms. These are the Glow Reviver Melting Lip Balms. These are really nice. They're very similar to ColourPop's formula, very similar to the Summer Fridays lip balm. I think ColourPop's formula is just slightly closer. So if you're looking for like a true dupe, I would go with ColourPop, but these are somewhat similar. These, in my opinion, have a little bit more pigment. So on my lips, which aren't very pigmented, these are much more vibrant than Summer Fridays, and in general, a little bit more vibrant than the ColourPop formula too. They're very glossy, super shiny. They don't last as long as ColourPop or Summer Fridays. These actually wear off pretty fast on me, but because it is a true lip balm, it's not something that I usually, you know, mind reapplying multiple times throughout the day. It definitely doesn't dry out my lips. It feels really moisturizing even once it wears off, but it's not the longest lasting lip balm I've tried. These smell really good. I love the scents they created. I love the shades they created. So definitely a great option from the drugstore as well if you're looking looking for like an easy, moisturizing, everyday lip balm. I actually couldn't decide if I was going to include this product in the lip balm category or if I should just create like a click up glossy stick category because a lot of brands have been doing those. But these are marketed as lip balms. They're just very glossy lip balms, and they're in, not your typical squeezy tube type packaging. They're in the click up glossy stick packaging. So these are the Essence Juicy Balm Glossy Butter Balms. I love these. I feel like these are the perfect option if you want a glossy lip balm. They're very, very shiny, so pretty on the lips. They have like that glossy feel to them, but they're also incredibly moisturizing. I think they look amazing on their own, but I also love wearing these over lip liner, over lipstick, because there is a nice hint of color. They are all a little bit different. So some are truly like very, very sheer, almost clear on the lips. And then some have a little bit more pigment. They're super melty, really, really comfortable. So in my mind, they kind of fall in like both the lip gloss and lip balm category, but it's basically a glossy balm. So definitely one of my favorites. They also smell really good, very, very fruity. Okay, lip oils. I did a lip oil video, I want to say last year. So if you want to hear about all of the lip oils at the drugstore that I've tried, my ranking, my pros and cons as far as each formula goes, I'll link that video in the description box. I feel like my top 3 can kind of randomly change just depending on the season or what type of product I'm really into at the moment. So these are my favorites right now. The ColourPop So Juicy Plumping Glossy Lip Oils. These are really, really beautiful. These to me almost feel more like a traditional lip gloss, but they're very thin. They feel like a lip gloss, lip oil hybrid. And so many lip products kind of blur the lines between like 2 different products these days, like a glossy balm or a glossy lip oil. And I think a lot of brands are doing like lip gloss, lip oils all in one. And that's kind of where this product falls. So I have one on today. I'm actually wearing this shade, which is It's a Date, and I'm wearing it over the e.l.f. lipstick in No Doubt. But that's what's giving it like that shiny, glossy finish. I love these because they actually stay in place extremely well for a lip oil because they have a little bit more of like a sticky, glossy feel. I find that they are longer lasting. If you don't like any sort of sticky or tackiness to your lip oil, this probably won't be the formula for you. But if you like a very shiny lip oil, you will love these. They're very moisturizing. They have a little bit of like a cooling, minty feel on the lips. And I love them. I think they're beautiful. For the most part, they're pretty sheer, but a few of them have a hint of color. Now, if you want a traditional lip oil, I don't even know if that's fair to say. I feel like there are so many different lip oil formulas at this point. Like when I used to think of a lip oil, I thought of like a super thin, oily, like runny texture that really didn't feel like anything on the lips. And at this point, when I think of a good lip oil, this is what I think of, but it's slightly thicker. It's a little bit more cushiony. It's the Essence Hydra Kiss Lip Oil. I feel like not everyone loves this formula, but it really is my go-to when I want like what I would consider a traditional lip oil. It's not sticky, but it's very luxurious feeling. Like there is a true cushion there when you apply this to the lips and you push your lips together. It's a little thicker, very shiny, very, very moisturizing. It's not the longest lasting formula, but once it wears off, my lips feel great. And a lot of lip oils really do dry your lips out. So I always look for a formula that feels moisturizing both while it's on and then also once it wears off. These have a little bit of a floral scent to them, which doesn't bother me, but I think that's the main reason why a lot of people don't like this formula because it does smell a little bit florally while it's on. So just something to note in case you are very sensitive to fragrance. For the third one, I really couldn't decide which one to include, and I had to go with this one, the e.l.f. Glow Reviver Lip Oil, but the Glimmer finish. So I like the regular Glow Reviver lip oils, but I probably wouldn't include them in my top 3, top 5 for sure, but there are probably like 1 or 2 other formulas I like just a little bit more, but the Glimmer version is so gorgeous, and honestly, I don't have a lot of glittery or shimmery lip oils in my collection, so you'll have to let me know if you have any other recommendations as far as like a good formula from the drugstore that also has a lot of shimmer in it. I just think these look so pretty and they really elevate the look every single time. So in my opinion, if I had to choose, I'd go with the shimmery version over the original if you're trying to pick. These just look very beautiful. They don't feel identical on the lips. I feel like the original version definitely looks and feels a little bit more glossy. Or like it has more of a shiny finish, but these look more intense because of the shimmer. And I do think the shimmer level kind of varies. I mean, my favorite out of all three is Crystal Baller. If I wear this on top of another lip product, it instantly amplifies it. Like you can just tell from that initial swatch, it's so gorgeous. It just basically highlights the lips. This is a very thin formula. It almost has a little bit of like a gel feel to it. These do have a minty scent, which I personally do not like, and I know a lot of you don't like either, but some people do enjoy it. So just something I like to mention when it comes to lip products, because they're right under your nose, you can generally smell them the entire time they're on the lips. So I wish they weren't minty, but honestly, it's not something I dislike enough not to actually wear them, especially this shade. It's just so gorgeous. Okay, so for drugstore lip gloss, there is a formula I talk about all the time on my channel because it is so gorgeous. It's the NYX This Is Milky Gloss line. I do have quite a few of these at this point, and I think these are so stunning. These are just beautiful, rich lip glosses. They are so smooth, so gorgeous on the lips. They actually have a good amount of pigment to them, and normally I don't like richly pigmented glosses, but these are so stunning. I love wearing them on top of lip liner or lipstick because a lot of lip liners and lipsticks can just enhance all of the dry lines and texture on my lips, and these instantly smooth over them. They give the effect the Lawless glosses give without like the plumping tingle or feel. So I think these are absolutely gorgeous. Whenever I do a video or whenever I think about drugstore makeup that feels like high end, like this formula instantly pops into my mind. So if you like more pigment in your gloss, I mean, they do have some sheer shades, but overall, I feel like they're pretty rich and pigmented and they have a good selection to choose from. I highly recommend these. So originally, I was going to do a ClickUp glossy stick category because there are so many formulas out there, but I do think the formulas vary a lot. Some lean in the direction of a true lip balm, some look and feel more like a traditional lipstick, and then some are very, very glossy. So I decided to choose my favorite, and that one falls into the glossy category. These are basically ClickUp gloss sticks. They're from ColourPop. They are the plumping gloss balms. I love these. They're pretty sheer overall, so you don't necessarily get a ton of color payoff, but again, it's the type of product that I'll layer on top of a lip liner or a lipstick, especially if it feels more dry in the first place, because this adds a ton of shine, a lot of moisture. It's so pretty on the lips. It just instantly makes your lips look really full because it adds so much shine. These are very, very comfortable to wear. I would say they do remind me a lot of the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips, but I feel like the Tarte formula is slightly thicker, and some of those do have a little bit more pigment, whereas these are a little bit thinner. So I find them to be much more comfortable on the lips. They're a great alternative to like a traditional lip gloss. If for whatever reason you like the ClickUp glossy format a little bit better, these are great. They're easy to swipe on. They're super beautiful. So highly recommend these. Okay, finishing up the lip product category with lip liner and lipstick. My number one favorite lip liner of all time is the ColourPop Lippy Pencil. This is the best formula in my opinion. I feel like a lot of lip liners check one or two boxes, but not everything. This one is very creamy, so it applies super easily. It's very pigmented, really rich, so you can easily fill your lips in, and then it stays in place really well. I just think ColourPop has the best formula, and they have such a great selection. They have like their main line, and then every holiday, and even randomly throughout the year, they'll do like limited edition sets that come with a bunch of shades. So you can get like 10 nudes, 10 reds, or like a giant box of lip liners too. So honestly, I could easily get rid of every lip liner I own and just be happy with these. These are the ones that I use the most often. A very close second would have to be the About Face Matte Fixed Lip Pencils. I don't really consider About Face to truly be drugstore, but I had to include these in today's video because number one, they are drugstore priced. So definitely one of my favorite affordable brands. But number two, I probably wouldn't have a third lip liner to mention. I guess I could have mentioned the hard candy lip liners. I do like those a lot, but just I don't like them as much as these. So I wanted to include these in today's video. Again, a great selection of shades to choose from. Such amazing nudes, amazing bright tones, deeper tones. These, again, very, very creamy. So they glide on well, amazing pigment, and they dry down. But these dry down to more of a matte finish, whereas ColourPop's formula kind of has like a slightly tacky feel to it. So both formulas honestly last on the lips very, very well, but the About Face formula is probably like a little bit silkier in my opinion. The third formula I wanted to mention, oh no, I do have a third formula. What was I saying? Was I saying I didn't have a third one? I don't know. Whatever I was saying, just disregard that because the third one that I wanted to mention is the LA Girl Shockwave Lip Liner formula. This is really great. I wouldn't say it is as long lasting as the other two, but you definitely get long wear out of this product. I love the shades they have. Again, so creamy, very rich on the lips. They probably are the most affordable out of all three I'm mentioning. So, you know, they're great. They're great enough that I wanted to mention them in today's video. But if you're looking for like true longevity, personally, I feel like ColourPop and About Face last a little bit longer. But LA Girl's formula is very creamy, very, very rich and pigmented. And it does wear well throughout the day, just not quite as long as ColourPop or About Face. Okay, finishing up with regular lipsticks. My favorite lipstick formula from the drugstore is easily the e.l.f. O Face Satin Lipstick formula. I just think this formula feels high-end. It looks high-end on the lips. It is so creamy, so rich, so comfortable. Again, I'm wearing the shade No Doubt. I do have those, or I had that ColourPop lip oil on top, and then I put the e.l.f. one on top as well. These really just feel high-end to me. Like if I went into Sephora and I swatched like 4 lipsticks next to this, I really wouldn't know a difference between e.l.f. and the higher end alternatives. Obviously, you know, depending on the finish you go for, you might like something else. Like these are definitely not matte lipsticks. They're satin, but they have a little bit more of like a creamy feel to them than you might consider like a true satin. But I love that because they're very comfortable, incredibly long wearing. Just so, so nice. And again, I feel like I probably could get rid of the majority of my lipstick collection and be pretty much happy with the e.l.f. formula. That being said, there are days where I want like a true matte finish. And when I want a true matte finish, a lot of pigment, a long wearing formula, I always reach for this one from Milani. I have a red that I love to wear and I can't find it. I think I wore it out and I must have brought it with me. It must be in like some random purse or something. But these are the Milani, I always forget the name. I think they're the Color Fetish matte lipsticks. These are such a good alternative to matte liquid lipsticks. I feel like in the back of my mind, when I'm wearing a color like a red or a berry, I'm like, I have to wear a matte liquid lipstick because that's the only thing that will stay in place well. But honestly, these stay in place pretty much just as great as matte liquid lipsticks. They're not as transfer proof. I mean, if you want something that locks down and doesn't move no matter what, you might still want to go with a matte liquid lipstick, but I typically just can't stand how those feel on the lips. And these are so much more comfortable while still being incredibly long wearing. So love these, especially if you want rich, vibrant pigment. The last lipstick formula that I chose for today's video is from Essence. So these are incredibly affordable. These are the Slim Stick lipsticks. So these also have a gorgeous matte finish, but they are not as long lasting as Milani, but I would say they're also more comfortable. So if you want the matte finish, but you don't necessarily need something that locks down and stays in place all day, these are a great option. They're so lightweight on the lips, just very smooth, like a true comfort matte finish, and they have great shades to choose from. Also, I know some people just like this slim style lipstick better. So if that's the case for you, these are great, but such a gorgeous formula, just not quite as long lasting as the Milani formula. If you want something that like dries down and locks in a little bit better, I would go for Milani. Let's finish up with eyes. There are so many good drugstore eyeshadow palettes, so many great formulas that are affordable and perform extremely well. My favorite formula right now, and probably since I tried these, I think last fall, would be the Revolution Beauty Icon palettes. These are so good. They really are. Revolution Beauty did dupe Patrick Ta's Major Dimension 2. This is like an identical dupe. And the other ones are kind of inspired by some other higher end alternatives. But if you're looking for a true dupe for Patrick Ta's palette, this is it. And I actually like this one better. So I'm mainly wearing this on my eyes today. I think I have like a random shadow from a Milani palette that I'll talk about in a second. But this is what I have all over the lid, this shade right here. It is so beautiful. The matte shadows blend out in 2 seconds. They're so easy. They're a little bit more buildable than Patrick Ta's formula, so not as rich and intense as soon as you touch them on the eyes, but you can build them. I actually think the creams in here are a little bit easier to work with. That's what I have on as liner, and then I set it into place with the dark brown shadow, and then the metallics are so creamy, so vibrant. Honestly, these are incredibly affordable. They're like $10, and I swear they perform like a higher end alternative. I also really like, I like both of these too. This one is the Eternal Icon, and I feel like it looks pretty similar to, I'm blanking on it now. I want to say Huda Beauty's Naughty Nude, but there was a lot of you said it looked like, oh, some of you said it looked like the Empowered palette. So I feel like it could kind of go either way, but a great option. I wore that one a ton during the fall and the winter. So anyway, whether you're considering them as an alternative to the higher end palette or not, I mean, the formulas, they're not identical. They definitely differ. And there are some shades that are not exact in those other two that I just shared with you. I think, you know, as standalone palettes, they perform extremely well. And they're just a great option if you want some fun eyeshadows to play with. Both mattes and metallics, and actually they have cream shadows in them too, which I do feel like comes in handy as a base or as an eyeliner. Honestly, like I said, there are so many good drugstore palettes. I wasn't really sure which ones to choose or how to narrow it down, but I feel like another one of my most used eyeshadow palette lines would be the Milani Gilded Minis line. So I have a couple here that I really love. Which one? The one that I probably use the most is just the matte palette. And that's because practically it just really comes in handy. I am wearing this shade in the crease as well, just to warm the eye up a little bit. But these are nice if you want just like easy shadows to work with. They're pretty pigmented overall. I mean, this one is fully matte, but some of them do have some really beautiful shimmers in them as well. I like this one a lot too. This one is Champagne Problems. They make it very easy to get a complete look, but they're not overly large palettes by any means. They're still pretty small. For some people, I feel like a quad might not give you enough options to do multiple looks, whereas with these palettes, I feel like 6 shades is perfect because you can go really light and soft, or you can go really dark and dramatic, or kind of meet somewhere in the middle. So these are nice. They're pretty powdery, but they're not as thin as some of the other drugstore formulas out there. I feel like if you like a very thin, lightweight shadow, these might not be the most ideal for you because they feel a little bit thicker, a little heavier, but I almost like that because I find that they're very easy to build up if that's something you want to do. So for my third choice, I actually just chose the ColourPop Super Shock Shadows. I feel like I can't film this video without mentioning these because they really do make my ideal formula. Most of the time when I'm doing my makeup these days, I am using something super simple. Like this is my favorite, my true favorite palette of all time from the drugstore, the e.l.f. I Love You a Latte Quad. I didn't mention it in today's video because as much as I like the bite-sized line, I think I like those other two formulas a little bit better. But day to day, I usually do something very simple, like a brown in the crease, and then I'll take a Super Shock shadow all over the lid. And I love these. I have loved these ever since they launched. What year was that? Like 2015? I don't know. I was filming YouTube videos back then, and I have a video where I was like, I picked these up for the first time. I can't wait to use them, and I love them. They're so beautiful even after all this time. Like it's been what, over 10 years? Yeah, maybe they came out in 2015 because I feel like they just did a 10-year anniversary not too long ago. I don't know. But even after 10 years, I still love this formula. I still reach for it every single week. And I just think it's so easy to work with. If you like a creamy shadow, not a true cream, but like a cream to powder, these are perfect. They're so stunning, so glittery, so sparkly. I don't know if they even make matte ones anymore. When they first launched them, they actually had a lot of matte shadows. And I think at this point, do they only have shimmers and glittery shadows? I think they do. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. I didn't ever love the matte shadows, but I almost feel like I would now because I do prefer like a creamy matte formula. And it kind of feels, you know, the Natasha Denona like cream to powder shadows. That's what the matte formula from ColourPop kind of felt like back in the day. So now I need to go online and see if they still make those. For mascara, my favorite drugstore mascara right now is the Essence Lash Without Limits. It has been for a little while. Before this, it was the Milani highly rated anti-gravity, which I do still really love, but I find myself reaching for this one more than Milani. This one gives my lashes a lot of volume, a lot of length. It makes them look very, very dramatic, but I feel like it's hard to get a clumpy look with this formula because it just builds so well on itself. So it doesn't dry too fast. It's a very wet formula and it stays wet as you're applying it. So I feel like you can layer it up over and over and over and it just looks better and better. So I love this one on days where I do want a little bit more of a dramatic look. They also have a brown that I really enjoy. On days where I want more of a natural look, I reach for the e.l.f. Lash Extender. I have been using this nonstop for, I don't even know how long. Definitely for a while, but I feel like within the last 6 months, it's become my go-to because I'm not always doing dramatic eyeshadow like I have on today. And when I have dramatic eyeshadow on, I usually reach for a dramatic mascara like the Essence one. But if I'm doing something very simple, like I haven't been wearing eyeliner a lot over the last 6 months, if I skip eyeliner altogether, I'll usually use this because it is more subtle. It's definitely softer, but it's still really pretty on the lashes. It gives your lashes a long, fluttery look. And because it is a tubing mascara, it just removes really easily at the end of the night, which I do appreciate. Like sometimes I just don't want to sit there and scrub the makeup off my eyes, especially because my eyes are so sensitive these days. And this right eyelid, it's so dry all the time. So I feel like sometimes the less makeup I wear, and the less effort I have to do to remove my makeup at the end of the day is actually better because my eyelids are just so easily irritated. And then the last one is the Milani Highly Rated Lash Extensions. I don't wear this one on its own a ton because when I want a tubing mascara, I'll reach for this one from e.l.f., but I will use this on top of any mascara I wear to lock it into place. It's like the perfect mascara topper because my mascara will not go anywhere. And then because it is a tubing mascara, if I just use it on like the very ends of my lashes, it really just like amps up the entire look. On its own, it is a tricky mascara to work with, especially when it's brand new. And for like the first month or two, it's such a wet formula that I feel like it does get very messy very, very quickly. So that's why I love using it on top just to kind of like touch the ends of the lashes. And then I'll use it on the bottom as well because it doesn't smudge. It looks dramatic, it looks dark, but I feel like it looks, it enhances my bottom lashes too, which is nice because I don't know. Most mascaras do not perform well on my bottom lashes. I feel like you're either like a two mascara person, like you have one for your bottom lashes you love, or you're like, that's just weird and you use whatever you're using. But I can't do that. I feel like I have to have a separate bottom mascara most of the time. Okay, I think, yeah, I still have a few more categories. I didn't pull any liquid liners for today's video because honestly, I don't know that I have a drugstore liquid liner that is like at the top of my list. What do you guys love? I've moved away from eyeliner a lot over the last year. Usually if I'm wearing eyeliner, it might look like liquid liner like today, but it's actually just a cream, or it might even be a pencil that I just kind of cleaned up to make it look a little bit sharper. So I don't know, like going through my collection, there wasn't a formula or two that I really felt stood out enough to mention in today's video. So please let me know if you have a recommendation, but I do have 3 pencil liners to share. So I'll either use these on the upper lash line or on the waterline. My favorite waterline formula, again, after all these years, is the ColourPop Cream Gel Liner. I always say this, but if you tried this formula years ago and it didn't work for you, I do recommend trying it again because I think a few years ago, they did something to it. They either redid it or they improved it, they reformulated it, and all of a sudden, I feel like it was just a little bit better. They used to break very easily, and they will sometimes break on me even still. If you just roll up a tiny amount, I feel like that's the best way to use them. But whatever they did a few years ago just made them like a little bit creamier. So they apply even better. And I love these on the waterline. Today I can't remember what I used for the waterline. I mixed like a bronze and a gold. They go on easily and they stay in place extremely well. And they have these beautiful metallic shades that just look so interesting on the eyes. Other eyeliners, I feel like don't apply as well on the waterline. They look a little bit too sheer, or they feel kind of waxy, or they wear off faster. But if I apply a ColourPop cream gel liner on my waterline, it will stay there all day long. I would say one of my favorite eyeliners for my upper lash line is this formula from LA Girl. I will sometimes use this on the waterline too, but it's not as long lasting as ColourPop. It's their Shockwave metallic liners. These are nice because they're very creamy. So they do glide on the upper lash line really, really easily if I want to create a wing or just define my eyes. And they do have that metallic sheen to them, which is really, really pretty. I love a good metallic liner because I feel like it just kind of adds something to the look. If, again, I apply these on my waterline, they're not quite as long lasting as ColourPop, but they stay in place pretty well throughout the day. I just think these are nice if you want like a fun pop of metallic. I would say the longest lasting matte liner is this one from Essence. These are the Stay and Play gel liners. I think these are all matte. Actually, no, I think this white one is more of a metallic. The one that I wear the most is the light nude one. So I feel like that's why I thought they were all matte. This one is Silky Nude. I'll use this on the waterline to kind of brighten things up. But these are very creamy, very rich. They stay in place pretty well too. So somewhat similar to ColourPop. Honestly, for me, ColourPop is number one, to the point where I don't use the other formulas as much, but ColourPop doesn't have all of the shades that I would personally reach for. So when that's the case, I'll reach for LA Girl or Essence. Okay, last category is brows. Originally, I was going to break it down and do like 3 brow gels, 3 brow pens, 3 brow pencils, but I didn't have enough products to really fill all 3 categories because I mainly wear the same brow products every single day. So I just thought I would share my top 3 brow products with you. My number 1 brow gel is the NYX Thick It Stick It Brow Gel. I just love this. I've loved it for years. It makes such a difference in my brows. I think there are a couple of different ways to use this. You can really build it up because it does dry down and layer extremely well. You can actually get really full, very thick looking brows with this product. What I do is I'll go in with 1 coat, let it dry, go in with a 2nd coat and kind of comb it upwards, and then maybe even go in with a 3rd coat to really add that layered texture. And it makes it look like I have very full, very thick, natural looking brows. Or not natural looking. It makes it look like my natural brows are very full and very, very thick because it just has like that textured finish to it that a lot of products don't have. A lot of brow gels are very crunchy, very hard, very shiny, so they don't really look natural in the brows, whereas this one really does. Or you can skip all of those layers and go in with one, and it holds them into place really well while still adding that texture and those fibers. So I love this product. I recommend it to everyone. Anyone who asks me for a recommendation, both online and in person, I'm like, please try this product. Try NYX brow products as a whole. When it comes to drugstore brands, I do think NYX has the most extensive shade range that work for the most amount of people. I won't say everyone because I'm sure there are people who can't find like their favorite shade within the lines, but they have a lot of products. They have multiple brow pens, multiple brow gels. So I feel like no matter what you're looking for, NYX usually does have an option that I think could be a great choice. So NYX actually just like fully filled up this category for me. My favorite brow pen is the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Tint Pen. I've tried so many brow pens at this point, and I always come back to this one. It is the longest lasting brow pen I've tried. Like one brow pen will last me for months and months and months, whereas other brands, they'll dry out after like a few uses, which is just crazy because even if it is a drugstore priced product, that's still a lot to pay for something that only works like once or twice. That happened to me with, I think it was, what was the brand? I want to say LA Girl. It also happened with e.l.f. I do like the Milani brow pen as well, but NYX has way more shades to choose from. And I feel like they're so similar that I stick with NYX because it really is the best. And then for brow pencil, I don't use brow pencil all the time, but when I do, it's this one from NYX, the micro brow pencil. It's the best. Years and years ago, like a million years ago, it replaced the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz for me. That was my go-to. I was consistently repurchasing that, and that's expensive. I don't know what they charge for it at this point, but I know it was over $20. And then I tried this one from NYX, and it feels identical. It honestly does. I like this one because it's not as waxy as some of the other brands out there. It definitely just applies well to my brows. It has good pigment to it. It stays in place well. And I can't really imagine going back to a high-end brand after trying this one because it works so well. That being said, I do still sometimes use the Urban Decay Brow Blade, but not really. I thought that was like a truly irreplaceable product in my routine. But between the NYX Brow Pencil and the NYX Brow Pen, I really don't need the Brow Blade, and I actually do like both of these better at this point. So those are my brow product favorites. So that's everything. Those are my top 3 favorite products in every category. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear from you. I know it's a lot to sit there and type out like your top 3 in every category, but if you have any favorites that you want to share with me, please let me know. I always take your favorites into consideration. Whenever I'm like reading through my comments, I usually have Ulta open, or like I'll flip to it or switch over to it on my phone and add products to like my cart or my loves list because you guys always leave me really good suggestions. So thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. If you like drugstore content, I'll link a couple of related videos on the screen, but otherwise I'll see you very soon with a new video. Bye.